This week's news from the tubes on F5 Live Refreshing Technology is proudly powered by Malwarebytes. Whether you use a PC, a Mac, or a mobile device, Malwarebytes Premium is the company's strongest protection ever. It fights threats that traditional antivirus software can't stop, plus it actively blocks threats like worms, rogues, dialers, trojans, spyware, and a whole lot more. It allows you to use your computer and mobile devices with confidence and peace of mind. To learn more and to get a special price, you can go to f5live.tv/malwarebytes. One thing we know seems to be an absolute constant and something we can't avoid on the internet is security breaches. Every time we turn around, it seems like LastPass or T-Mobile is getting hacked or exposing data. And that's just those two. Lots of companies have had these issues over the last couple of years in particular. And every time it happens, it's the same thing. We don't know how it happened. We're looking into it. We're going to make sure we fix the problem. Here's a year of identity protection monitoring for free. And then a couple months later, T-Mobile gets hacked again. So, right now, all of the onus of their mistakes is on you. It's not on them. They give you a free year of identity theft monitoring, and they move on with their day. It really sucks. It sucks for everybody because you give your information to somebody. We talked about this with TikTok earlier. We give your information to somebody and you expect that there's going to be some sort of protection involved in it, but you never know. You don't know what's going on with it. And the companies right now, the service providers, don't have a whole lot of incentive to do things right. To build proper security requires thought and planning and design and infrastructure.
Can you not sue?
Depends on what it is. Some stuff you can. Depends on whether there's all kinds of stuff on whether or not you'll be successful with the lawsuit. Of course, I mean, you could sue me for using the wrong words right now, but to have a successful suit in one of these, they have to have hidden the breach or not disclosed the depth of the breach or not tried to mitigate it afterwards. There's all this nonsense. And obviously the biggest thing that would keep the companies from shirking their responsibilities, I was trying to come up with a better phrase than a word we don't use on the show, is a public response, but they happen every day. Public response grew tiresome years ago. And so, the Biden administration is currently looking to create some liability for the providers who experience a security breach that has, I don't know all the details because it's just a let's go look into this type document. But they want to move the liability from us to the companies whose breach it actually is, which I think is a brilliant move. And I think regular viewers and listeners know I don't tend to side with the government on many things. I'm not a heavy-handed type person, but this is where a relationship is created in which one has the upper hand and there's potential for harm. And that's for sure the purview of the government. It's essentially, they're talking about HIPAA-ish for non-medical things, which I think is a great idea.
What would the consequences look like?
See, we're not there yet. Because this was a document created by the administration, which doesn't have any actual power to put this stuff into place that has to come from the legislature. But this is one of those. These are our goals. Here are the things that we find important, and we can work with the agencies to implement what we can, and then work with the legislature to firm up and shore up those things. So it's kind of a policy outline document similar to the executive order that came out a year ago. In fact, I think this might be the end result of that executive order, talking about how can we shore up infrastructure, how can we shore up national security, and then personal privacy. So this might actually be the end result of that executive order. The more I think about it, I hadn't considered that until you asked the question. But this is essentially, these are the things that we think are important. Here's how we think they should be handled. Here are the people that need to now start looking into implementation of said ideas. So there's no hard and fast stuff here.
I think that the issue, like, so many data breaches have happened now that you almost kind of got to assume that a lot of your data is out there
everywhere.
So everywhere. So I mean,
your browser probably scrapes the dark web, not your browser, but a server on the back end probably scrapes the dark web looking for your data. And when you go put in a username and password, it goes, ho, 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 ho. Don't do that. That one's already out there.
Right. Yeah, I've gotten those warnings, and unfortunately sometimes it does it for stuff that, like, I don't even have an account on anymore or whatever. Like, I signed up for a free Adobe thing to download to trial Photoshop or something, and I can't change it.
Usually they're but they're letting you know that the username, the email and password combo already exists and has been breached. Don't create something new with that exposed info.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, I think that, first of all, world governments, because this isn't just the United States problem, but, we're talking about in the United States about what the U.S. government's going to do, need to do something better for identity than the things that are out there now, like Social Security number, and
which was never intended to be used for identity. Right. And in fact, the card says, do not use this for identity.
Right. But so many places ask you for it, and it's also not necessarily always clear when you can say no. Like, when I go to the doctor's office and they ask me for it, can I say no? Like, it's not really clear to me. Like, they have my insurance number. They shouldn't need my Social Security number. They should know how to get paid. Right. Like, so, yet they ask me for it, and if I don't fill it out, then they're going to give me a hard time. So, like, there's a lot of stuff where they ask you for your information, and then like, so instead of putting all this effort into, like, yes, punish whatever, but the barn door has already been open a long time ago. So maybe what we need to look at is how we compartmentalize this information. Like, we don't want the breaches, absolutely, like, make these companies be held responsible. But at the same time, like, it's like there's too many breaches already. Yeah. Like, most people have probably had their data affected in some kind of breach at this point. So what are you gonna do about it? First of all, they could legislate what data companies are allowed to store, right? Like, maybe you're not allowed to store somebody's credit card number or something, like, I don't know. But the other thing they could do is just try and figure out different identity methods that are more secure. Like, I don't know what they are, but maybe there are people who have thought about this.
Yeah.
Like, try to come up with a, like, maybe this sounds a little bit too, like, I know, because there's a lot of people who are afraid of the government, don't like the government as a principle, but, like, maybe they need some kind of new national ID system that is better than Social Security number.
But what if we're talking about your email address and password has been compromised and you're using that on multiple platforms.
You better not use the same password in multiple places. I mean, the other thing is that that's why we need things like 2FA also, right? Like, so you need a hardened, like, you need hardened at those sources too.
So much 2FA is done with sending a text to your phone, and cloning a SIM is one of the easiest things in the world.
Do something. I don't know. Like, I don't.
So for me, I'll tell you, like, I am all. It's one of the reasons why I am not on TikTok and I won't click on links when people send them to me. I am very conscious of my online presence. I use, and they're not a sponsor of the show or anything, I use YubiKey.
Yeah, me too.
That's my
I use YubiKey.
That's my go-to. They're good friends of ours, but they're not sponsors of the show. I've been using them for years.
You actually don't need YubiKey because you can get other keys that are, like YubiKey.
Sure.
But like a FIDO Alliance key.
Sure.
I guess to be the generic term, because YubiKeys are nice, but they're a little more expensive. So like here I have a YubiKey though, and it's great. Like, but here's the problem: not everything will accept this as a token. A lot of things will not.
That's true.
So,
although I think that both the Microsoft and Google authenticators will.
Now, but they seem to have workarounds for that too, because like if I try to log into Google and I don't have my YubiKey, it offers me the opportunity to text myself. So couldn't you just do that?
Yeah.
Like if you offer people a workaround to something, then the other method is still the method, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. If you've still got a fallback to the unsecure, SIM clone hack, then we're back.
Which is why I don't get all this talk about Microsoft and others. We're getting rid of passwords.
Every time I see an article like that, I get mad.
Because can't you still, like, all it just means is that you can log in without the password, but you can also log in with the password, which means if someone steals your password, they can still get in. So they really haven't made it any more secure at all.
Yeah.
They just made it more convenient for you, but they haven't, like, if you had to use a fingerprint reader to log in, or then maybe that would be more secure.
However,
but if it's just one option of many,
right,
then it's not. Then you're only as secure as the least secure method, right?
Exactly.
So
you're only as strong as your weakest link, and if your weakest link is a hacked password that's available for free on the dark web, then it still doesn't matter.
Right. So anyway, I don't know what to say about that except that, like, everybody, yes, hold these companies responsible, but at the same time, we have to come up with better methods of dealing with identity, because like too much has already been breached. So we need to figure out ways of giving people either some type of a token that they only use for one thing, or also, come out with some kind of new national identity thing that's really hard to hack, and then like limit who can get it or for what purpose, or how maybe there needs to be 2FA on your, and also maybe there should be some types of restriction on like the level of care that places that use your identity take to verify that it's you. Like, you're talking about protecting the data, but no one's talking about the integrity of using the data. So like, for example, somebody steals your social security number, right? And then they can go, and your name and address, whatever, easily gotten, and they go and apply for a credit card as you or whatever. Like, maybe we should hold the credit card company responsible for doing more to verify that it's you. Like,
It's interesting you say that. I feel like that was part of this pillar 3. There were 5 pillars to this document. Pillar 3 is shape market forces to drive security and resilience. I feel like that might have been mentioned. I read this whole thing a couple of days ago. I don't necessarily remember all the details. But so let's see. Hold the stewards of our data accountable, drive the development of secure IoT, shift liability for insecure software products and services, use federal grants and other incentives to build in security, explore federal cyber insurance, backstop. That's an interesting concept, like FDIC, but for... Yeah, kind of. So I don't remember if there was talk about something like that or not, but because it's been a couple of days. Yeah, I think it was Pillar 4, invest in a resilient future.
Right. Yeah, well, that could mean a lot of things, but I think you got to be, better methods of using people's of verifying people's identity than the methods that exist today, rather than just trying to protect the insecure methods that already exist.
4.5, support development of a digital identity ecosystem. There's a reference back to your other. Yeah. I had a feeling that some of this was mentioned in here. Again, it's been a couple of days since I read it. It was published early in the week, but the entire document is available on the article. If you go to PLUGHITZlive.com, you'll see the article that's entitled U.S. Government Investigating Holding Providers Liable for Data Breaches. The link to the actual document's in there. So definitely check it out. It is a 39-page document, I think. It's got a lot of information, and it's all about next steps, which is pretty interesting. But for now, where we are right now, as we have said many times over the years, you've got to take your own precautions to prevent to mitigate the risks after one of these data breaches happens, because they happen every day, and that's just at T-Mobile and LastPass at this point. So yeah, do what you can to protect yourself, because it's the government. There's no telling how long that'll take. Hello, YouTube. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of F5 Live, Refreshing Technology. If you did, please subscribe to the channel down below, and of course hit the notification bell, because we know that subscriptions don't mean much on YouTube anymore. If you've got topics that you'd like us to talk about in the future, please comment them down below. And if you'd like to not follow us on YouTube, there's lots of ways that you can follow along with our content by going to PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows and all of the ways that you can watch, listen, and follow along.